The hum of the star drive was a constant, comforting companion in the void. My ship, the Starlight Marauder, was a salvage tug, not built for speed or beauty but for patience. My current contract was a simple one. Survey the debris field orbiting the gas giant Cygnus 7, a graveyard of a forgotten war, and recover any viable quantum flux cores. It was lonely, quiet work, exactly what I'd wanted. I never expected to find a survivor. It was a glint of polished obsidian where there should only be pitted steel. A life pod adrift for who knows how long, its emergency beacon dead. I tractored it into my cargo bay, the metal groaning in protest. When I cut the hatch open, the air that sighed out was cold and smelled of ozone and something else, something floral and alien. She was curled in a corner, her skin the color of a nebula, shifting with faint, slow-moving constellations. She wore the tattered remnants of a uniform, elegant and severe, and a single cracked diadem hung from her belt. When her eyes opened, they were the color of molten gold, and they held a depth of sorrow that made my breath catch. "You are not one of them," she whispered, her voice like the chime of crystal. "I'm Kaylin," I said, my own voice rough from disuse. "A salvager. You're safe." She introduced herself as Lyra, a navigator of the Celestian hegemony. Her ship, a royal vessel, had been ambushed. Her family, the ruling line, had been betrayed from within by a faction led by her uncle Valerius. She was the last of her line, a fact she stated not with pride, but with a crushing weight. I was just a scavenger. My world was one of rust and cosmic radiation, not interstellar politics and royal bloodlines. But you don't leave someone to die in the dark. I gave her my bunk, my rations, my silence. 4 days she was a ghost on my ship, tracing the paths of the stars on my viewport with a slender, star-charted finger. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was filled with the unspoken horror of her past and the growing, undeniable pull of her presence. Then the proximity alert blared. A hegemony battleship, the Oblivion's Edge, slid out of warp space, blocking our path. Valerius's ship. Its hull was a weapon, all sharp angles and menacing gun ports. "He's found me," Lyra said, her voice steady, but her constellations swirled into frantic patterns. "He cannot let me live. The throne of the hegemony is psychically attuned. Only a direct descendant can activate its defenses. Without me, our core worlds are vulnerable." My hands clenched on the controls. I could jettison the pod, claim I'd found it empty. Save my own skin. It's what the old Kaylin would have done. But I looked at her, at the starlight in her skin and the resolve hardening in her golden eyes, and I knew I couldn't. "What do you need me to do?" I asked. She placed a hand on my arm. Her touch was cool, sending a shiver through me. "Your ship is neutral, unaffiliated. If you stand with me, if you vouch for me, his own crew may question him. They are not all traitors." It was a desperate, foolish hope. But it was the only one we had. I opened a channel. The face that filled the screen was carved from ice and ambition. Valerius. His eyes, a colder, harder gold than Lyra's, narrowed. "Scavenger," he hissed. "You harbor a fugitive. A traitor to the hegemony." "The only traitor here is you," I said, the words feeling foreign and brave on my tongue. "You murdered your own family for a chair." A ripple of unease was audible from the bridge behind him. Valerius's lip curled. "You know nothing of our ways, human. Her father was a fool, led astray by siren song technology that would have unraveled the fabric of local spacetime. I did what was necessary to preserve order." "He was my father," Lyra said, stepping into view. Her voice carried an authority that silenced the static of the open channel. "And he was deceived. I was the one who uncovered the truth of the Siren Tech's instability. I was on my way to warn him when you struck." Valerius's composure cracked. You were his accomplice. "Then why hunt me across the sector?" Lyra countered, her gaze unwavering. "Why not present your evidence to the High Council? Unless, of course, your evidence is as unstable as the technology you claim to despise." The silence on the channel was absolute. I saw the flicker of panic in Valerius's eyes. He had not anticipated being challenged, not here, not by a scavenger and a girl he'd left for dead. It was then that the Oblivion's Edge trembled. A deep, resonant shudder that vibrated through my own ship's hull. Alarms klaxoned on Valerius's bridge. "The core!" an officer shouted from off-screen. "The siren tech we salvaged from the flagship. It's resonating with the ship's power matrix. It's overloading. The view screen showed chaos. Lights flickered. Valerius spun, his face a mask of terror. Contain it. You can't, I said, my salvager's instincts kicking in. I'd seen core breaches before. The energy readings scrolling on my own console were catastrophic. The resonance is feeding back through your primary systems. If you try to jettison it now, it'll trigger a chain reaction. You'll take this entire star system with you. Lyra turned to me, her golden eyes wide. The throne, the principle is the same. It requires a royal psionic signature to stabilize an energy matrix of that magnitude. On that ship? I asked, my blood running cold. She nodded. It's a mobile command throne. I can do it. I can dampen the reaction, but I'll need someone to physically reroute the primary power conduits. The fail-safes will be locked out. Valerius stared at us, a man watching his doom approach. You would doom us all. No, I said, already grabbing my tool harness and a portable cutter. She's the only one who can save us. There was no time for argument. We took my ship's one and only shuttle, a rickety boarding craft, and docked with the shuddering Leviathan. The halls of the Oblivion's Edge were in pandemonium, filled with smoke and the screams of overloading systems. We fought our way to the throne room, a cavernous chamber dominated by a massive chair carved from a single piece of black meteorite, now pulsing with violent crimson light. Lyra didn't hesitate. She ran to the throne and placed her hands upon it. Her body went rigid, her head thrown back. The constellations on her skin blazed with incandescent light, flowing down her arms and into the stone. The angry red pulse of the throne began to slow, warring with her calming silver radiance. I went to work. The access panel beneath the throne was a mess of melted conduits and sparking energy. My world narrowed to the hum of my cutter, the smell of scorched metal, the feel of hot cables in my hands. The ship groaned around us, a beast in its death throes. I could feel the heat through the soles of my boots. Kaelin, Lyra gasped, her voice strained. I cannot hold it much longer. Almost there. I shouted, my hands moving on pure muscle memory, bypassing the burnt-out relays, creating a new path for the raging energy. A final connection. A surge of power arced across the room, throwing me back against a console. Then silence. A deep, steady hum replaced the scream of overloading systems. The throne's light softened to a gentle silver glow, stable and serene. Lyra slumped forward and I was there to catch her. She was cold, her light dimmed, but she was breathing. The crew of the Oblivion's Edge, who had watched our desperate race with held breath, now stared in stunned silence. Valerius looked from the stabilized throne to Lyra, cradled in my arms, and the fight drained from him. His ambition had nearly obliterated everything. When Lyra found the strength to stand, she faced her uncle not with anger, but with a profound, weary pity. You sought power to prevent chaos, Valerius, and in doing so you became its agent. You will stand trial before the restored High Council. He offered no resistance as his own guards, their loyalty finally clear, took him away. In the quiet of the healed throne room, Lyra turned to me. Her hand found mine, her touch now warm. You saved me. You saved my people. I looked around at the immense alien ship, at the woman who commanded Starlight, and I shook my head. We saved it. Together. She smiled, a small, weary thing that held the promise of a future. The hegemony will need rebuilding. Its navigator will need a first engineer. Someone who isn't afraid of a little messy wiring. I let out a breath, a laugh that was also a sigh of relief. After all this, I think my salvage days are over. As we stood there, hand in hand, the great ship turned, its course set for home. The stars outside the viewport were no longer just points of light, but destinations. And I, a simple scavenger from the rust belts, realized I hadn't just rescued a princess from the dark. I had been pulled into her orbit, and I had no desire to ever break free.